The movie opens in the year 1974, and we are introduced to a man named Marty Bronson, who runs a Sunny Vista Motel with his 2 children. The 12-year-old daughter, named Wendy, is very serious-minded and runs the front desk efficiently, while the 10-year-old son, named Skeeter, works as a porter. You just know Skeeter's gonna be a disappointment. Every night, Marty tells them some bedtime stories to put them to sleep. Despite being a good hotelier and host, Marty seems to be a bad businessman, as he faces serious financial problems and almost goes bankrupt. As a result, he is forced to sell the motel to Barry Nottingham, CEO and founder of hotel chain Nottingham Hotels. Before finalizing the deal, Marty stipulates that Skeeter will take over the business when he's older, a condition that Barry agrees to. Skeeter's gonna screw that up so bad. The movie fast forwards several years ahead, and Barry turns this small family establishment into a luxury hotel with the name Sunny Vista Nottingham. However, Skeeter is stuck as the hotel's hand-working repairman, as Barry seems to have forgotten his promise. You're doing the right thing, Barry. At a social event, Barry announces his plan to shut down the existing hotel and build a larger one by the name Sunny Vista Mega Nottingham. For this, he appoints Kendall Duncan as the future manager, primarily because Kendall is dating Barry's daughter, Violet. After work, Skeeter visits his sister Wendy's home for his niece's birthday. It appears that the siblings haven't seen each other in 4 years, and Wendy has gone through a divorce in the interim. Skeeter greets his nephew and niece, Patrick and Bobby, and presents the latter with a gift filled with hotel items. Nothing for Patrick, though. Shortly afterward, Wendy calls Skeeter outside for a private chat. She shares that the school at which she is the principal is closing down, so she has to travel to Arizona for job interviews. As a result of this, she requests that Skeeter look after her children for a few days. Skeeter initially declines because he's useless, but eventually agrees when he learns that Wendy's co-teacher Jill will be taking the day shift. The next day, while in the hotel's kitchen, Skeeter talks with his best friend Mickey, who questions why he didn't demand to lead the new hotel. Mickey also reminds Skeeter that Kendall might take everything away from him. Just then, Skeeter receives a call from Jill, reminding him of his babysitting shift that night. Skeeter, who had almost forgotten about it, rushes home. As Jill leaves, Skeeter tucks the 2 kids into bed, but they ask for a bedtime story before he can leave. In response, he looks through the available storybooks, but doesn't find any of them to be good enough. Hence, he decides to create his own narrative. In his improvised tale, he portrays himself as Sir Fix-a-Lot, an underprivileged peasant in a medieval fantasy realm who is unfairly overlooked for promotion. The kingdom adores Buttkiss, a fictional counterpart of Kendall. Other characters in the story include Mickey as Friar Fred, the children as Stinky and Smelly, and Jill as a mermaid teacher. Throughout the story, the kids make their own additions, such as the king giving Sir Fix-a-Lot a chance to prove himself, and a surprise rain of gumballs at the end. Success and lots of balls. Skeeter is in paradise. The following morning, Skeeter is preparing breakfast for the children when he receives a call from Barry's assistant, summoning him to fix Barry's TV. Unable to leave the children alone, he takes them along to the hotel. There, he comes across Violet and requests that she look after the kids while he repairs her father's TV. Following this, he goes upstairs, where Barry is sitting in the dark. Skeeter turns on the light, only to be berated by Barry, who believes germs multiply in the light. While repairing the television, Skeeter tries to strike up a conversation about the new hotel, and Barry reveals a hidden theme: rock and roll. Skeeter points out that another hotel already uses that theme. Hearing this, Barry calls in Kendall and reprimands him. At this moment, he offers Skeeter a chance to prove himself. If he can suggest a better theme, he'll hire him as a manager of the new hotel, replacing Kendall. "I got a theme for you," says Skeeter. "Balls." Meanwhile, Jill arrives at the hotel to pick up Patrick and Bobby for school. Later on, Skeeter is driving back home when he is suddenly greeted with a shower of gumballs raining down from above. It actually happened because of a gumball truck crash on an overpass. The earlier bedtime story miraculously seems to have come true, but Skeeter dismisses it as a mere coincidence. That night, Jill drops off the kids at Skeeter's hotel room for the night shift. As she departs, he asks the kids if anything unusual happened to them, even showing them some gumballs. However, the kids don't understand what he's getting at.
Stop talking about balls, Dad. It's freaking weird.
Following this, they proceed for dinner, and Mickey shows up with some delicious hamburgers. The kids, who are eating the hamburgers for the first time, find it really tasty. However, they decide not to disclose this to their mom, as she won't allow them to eat junk food. Before going to bed, Skeeter makes up a new story, this time centering around a Western theme. In the narrative, he imagines himself as a cowboy who wants a new horse to improve his fortunes. He asks a Native American chief for the finest horse, and out comes Ferrari, a bright red horse. Much to the cowboy's surprise, the chief gives him this expensive horse for free. Skeeter wants to end the story here, but the kids are unsatisfied, prompting them all to add more scenes. Continuing with the story, the cowboy spots a damsel in distress and saves her from several criminals. In the aftermath, the cowboy is about to be rewarded with a kiss, but an angry dwarf kicks him. David Lynch has entered the chat. With this, the kids end the story and go to sleep. That very night, Skeeter visits a Ferrari showroom and gazes at a red car. Just then, he is approached by a Native American man. Skeeter is excited to see him, as he believes that his story is actually coming true. Skeeter is in very real danger of appearing racist here. However, the man tricks him and steals his wallet. Disheartened, Skeeter drives home, and on the way, he spots Violet, surrounded by paparazzi. He steps in to help the girl and scares away the intrusive photographers. Just as in the story, Violet is about to reward him with a kiss, but an angry dwarf disrupts the moment. Violet then decides to leave, and that's when Skeeter notices her red Ferrari. He mistakenly thinks that it's for him, but she drives away, leaving him standing there. This makes him realize that only the children's additions to the stories come true. The next morning, Jill arrives at the hotel and picks up the kids for school. A few moments after they leave, Kendall approaches Skeeter and reminds him of the maintenance work. He also asks him to stay away from Violet, because whatever Skeeter is imagining between them will never work out. In response, Skeeter suggests that he mind his tone, because he's thinking of keeping Kendall around once he runs the new hotel. Soon, the night falls and Jill drops the kids off at the hotel. Skeeter then leads them to the rooftop of the hotel to relax amidst the beautiful surroundings. As they chat, the children ask if their father will ever return. Skeeter doesn't have an answer to this, but he assures them that their mother Jill and him will always be by their side. This makes the kids smile, and Jill leaves after wishing them a good night. When it's time for the bedtime stories, Skeeter tries to pitch the kids on the hotel theme contest, but they're more interested in romance and action. As a result, Skeeter begins a story in which he envisions himself as a daring, chariot-riding stuntman in ancient Greece. After performing some impressive stunts in the grand arena, he wins a date with the fairest maiden in the land. Bobby chimes in, adding a scene where the stuntman and the maiden go to a restaurant where the girls are jealous of her beauty. Patrick further adds to the story, describing how the two characters take a beachside walk and come across an unconscious man washed up on the shore. The stuntman kicks the man and lets loose a fish stuck in his throat, saving his life. Following this, it starts raining, and the two seek shelter in a cave which has Abraham Lincoln in it. Hearing this, Skeeter gets impatient, as their story makes no sense. Okay, kids, go back to the part where I'm getting babes. However, the kids ignore him and go to sleep. The following day, Skeeter is at the beach when he receives a call from Violet. He initially believes that she's the fairest maiden from the story, but his assumption is proven wrong as she's leaving for Vegas. At that moment, he accidentally bumps into Jill, who is passing by the beach after dropping the kids at school. She invites him to join her for lunch, and they head to a restaurant. Just as in the story, they encounter a group of girls who admire Jill's beauty. After this, Skeeter and Jill go for a walk on the beach and stumble upon an unconscious man. Skeeter saves the man's life, exactly as he did in the story, and a sudden rainstorm prompts them to seek shelter under a dock. It's at this point that Skeeter realizes that Jill is the fairest maiden, and he falls in love with her. However, as they're about to kiss, he recalls the Abraham Lincoln part of the story. Sensing something odd might happen, Skeeter ducks, and moments later, a penny falls through the dock. This amuses Jill, who then walks away. The scene fast forwards to the next night, where Mickey asks about Skeeter's strategy for tomorrow's business presentation. Skeeter explains that it relies on today's bedtime story. It turns out to be Skeeter's final night with the children, as Wendy will be returning the next day. In his last story, Skeeter tells a space-themed tale in which his character battles Kendall's character to become the planet's leader. Since they're in space, Patrick wants Skeeter to talk like an alien with a translator beside him. After a fierce duel, Skeeter's character emerges victorious. he yells. He attempts to conclude the story here, deeming it a perfect ending. However, the kids aren't done yet, and they decide to have Skeeter's character incinerated by a fireball. Skeeter panics and asks the kids to change that ending, but they fall asleep. The next morning, Kendall visits Wendy's school and discusses the unfortunate news with Jill. He reveals that their school is closing down because it's the same location where the Sunny Vista Mega Nottingham is going to be built. This clearly upsets Jill, but she can do nothing about it. Later in the evening, Skeeter drives to Barry's birthday party, where he'll be presenting his new theme idea. But before reaching there, he stops at a convenience store on the way and buys some items that will help him from catching fire. Upon arriving at Barry's residence, Skeeter learns that the party is Hawaiian themed and full of flames. Due to this, he opts to be extra careful regarding the fire. A short while later, Skeeter eats an ice cream, unaware that a bee is in it. As a consequence, the bee stings his tongue, making it difficult for him to speak. Afterwards, the presentation begins, and Kendall goes first to present his new Broadway theme. When it's Skeeter's turn, he starts speaking gibberish, but thankfully, Mickey is there to translate. After hearing both presentations, Barry appears to be moved by Skeeter's heartfelt speech and ultimately appoints him as the new manager. Later on, Kendall approaches Skeeter and commends his guts to tear down the school of his niece and nephew for the hotel. Skeeter is shocked to hear this and goes to talk to Barry. However, the old man brushes him off as everyone starts singing the birthday song to him. Soon after, the cake arrives, and as Barry blows out the sparklers, Skeeter becomes paranoid about fire, prompting him to blast a fire extinguisher at Barry's cake. This infuriates Barry, who then fires him from the hotel. Skeeter finally realizes that this is what the children meant in the story. The following day, Skeeter goes to meet Jill at the school in order to clarify that he had no idea of the hotel's location. However, she tells him not to make any excuses and walks away. Later, Skeeter is at his place with a sad face when Wendy walks in. She's also mad at him, not about her school closing, but because he taught her children that there are no happy endings. Wendy encourages him not to lose the optimism he's had since childhood. After she departs, he realizes that he needs to do something unexpected to change everything. In the next scene, Barry arrives at the zoning commissioner's office, with Jill trailing behind him and pleading with him to reconsider his decision. Meanwhile, at the school, Kendall is making preparations for the school's demolition. Barry enters the commissioner's office, only to discover Skeeter, who has managed to convince the commissioner to withhold permission for the school's demolition. This leaves Barry seething with anger, but Skeeter has an alternative location with a beach view for the new hotel. This immediately changes Barry's mood, as he finds the location even more appealing. If only it were that easy. Jill is astounded that Skeeter simply fixed everything. Then, the two are about to kiss when Barry intervenes, saying that the demolition starts in 13 minutes and he's unable to reach Kendall. Sensing the urgency of the situation, the two of them steal a motorcycle and rush towards the school. After a wild motorcycle ride, they reach there just moments before the demolition begins. Skeeter then announces that the school will remain as is, as the new hotel's location has been changed. This brings joy to everyone, except for Kendall. With everything back in its rightful place, Skeeter and Jill finally share a romantic kiss. In the aftermath, Skeeter marries Jill and opens a motel named in honor of his father, with Kendall demoted to the motel's staff. On the other hand, Violet marries Mickey, and together they operate Barry's business empire. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.